Our next project is another scroll work project with soft wire. I'm going to wrap this small biwa pearl, and it's a freshwater pearl. I buy these by the strand. There's several sources of them. This one's about roughly an inch long. An inch to an inch and a half is a good length. But you can also use a small cabochon, well-cut cabochon, a symmetrical cabochon, or you can use irregular stones with this, and you can use any size. You can go up to, a piece 2 or 2.5 inches long. Project takes a deceptively long length of wire to complete, but for this small stone, we'll use 2 pieces about 12 inches long and 2 pieces about each 6 inches long for the wrap wires. Use all the same gauge. In this case, I'm using 22 gauge square soft gold felled, and the total length of that would be 12 plus 24, around 3 feet. One way to determine that is, as I showed you earlier, is to form a very rough design with a telephone wire, your magic wire, and then straighten it out and measure it. First you form the design, then you add 2 inches on each side for the bail. So, and all of that for this stone adds up to about 36 inches. We'll probably have a little wire left over. As I said, it takes a deceptively long wire for this project, and there's nothing quite as disappointing as getting right to the end and finding out you need another 1/4 or 1/2 inch of wire. Kind of takes the edge off the project. You have to start over. All right, I've pre-cut. My primary wires are 24 inches. I'm going to cut those 2 in half. And it's soft wire, so we get roughly 2 12-inch lengths. I've cut my my wires. The primary wires, again, are the main structural wires, and on this project are the wires that you see on the outside and that do all the scrolls. The wrap wire is 1 piece 12 inches long, and it's the inside wire. If you're using a bigger stone, you may want to go to 3 wires or even 4 wires on the outside and 2 on the inside. But for this one, I'm just going to have 1 wrap wire and 2 primary wires. Now you may or may not twist these wires. I'm not a big, I don't like to put a lot of filigree and fancy stuff on mine, but you can twist the primary wires. But I almost always twist the wrap wire. And again, in this case, the wrap wire is this wire here. And well, it's a little hard to see back here, but it's this wire right here. So I'll go ahead and twist that. And this is soft wire, so we can twist the whole 12 inches in one action here. And again, I use the leg trick, and then I'll just roll it down my leg. Again, I don't count the number of twists. I just twist it until I am pleased with the appearance, and that seems about right. You'll soon develop a feel for this. And I, again, want to precaution you on handling your wire too much. It gets little kinks in it. They're very difficult to get out, and they will show up in your final project. One way to take kinks out, if it's extreme, is to twist them. So you could twist one or two of these wires, your primary wires, if you needed to. Okay, just as we do in other wrapping situations, we're going to take the twisted center wrap wire at the center and offset it to my left. One thing you might do that will make it a little easier, although I don't always use it, is just to tape one end of these two primary wires. And again, tape them flat and make sure your alignment is correct. That is, that the two wires face up and look the same as you look at them under the light. And these are pretty good. And I'm straightening this out as best I can with my fingers. It has a tendency to work harden the wire slightly, which is good in this case. Okay. I take my wrap wire and I'm going to wrap this once. Like that, and I'll crimp it tight, but not so tight that you cut the wires. And I've done this, I've left approximately 3 inches up on top. We're going to use that much to secure the stone, and this will become the bail, so we need that additional length for the bail. On the introductory tape, I talked about the X foundation, and this is what I mean by that. This is kind of a basic method of holding stones in place and providing structure to the piece. Okay, now then we will lay our stone across the X like this. I think I want this end up. Okay. Now, just as we did on the ring, I'm going to wrap this around, scroll it around the end of the stone, around this wrap wire, and then I'll come straight up for the bail. So here I come. I'm just rolling it and scrolling it around the end of the stone, around the wrap wire, and I'll bring this back, and that will hold that in position, and then my primary wires will come up. Okay, on the bottom I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to again scroll this around the bottom, make these two somewhat parallel, the primary wires parallel, around the wire, and up like that. And I'm going to bring the bottom scroll wires down. So at this point the stone is held in place, and it will be held more and more as time goes on. I'm going to use the wrap wires to form a bezel around the stone. I'll go then around the upper bail wires, and then we'll cut it off. So to do that, I form a scroll right around these wires, just like that. and I'll bring it up, and I'll bring it in front of my 2 bail wires. Wrap it around. Secure it. And I'm going to cut it. This is a little more pleasing way. I'm just shaping it just a little. Going to do the same then with the wires at the top of the stone. Going to make a scroll, and observe that my scrolls are going counterclockwise, and you need all of your scrolls to go the same direction on the entire project. Okay, I'm forming that scroll. Going to shape it again. We'll bring it a little tighter. And I'll bring it across the front of the primary wires, around, and crimp it tight. And I'll cut that one. Okay, so this is what we have. I need to force this over a little bit. Now the stone is definitely in place and will be held in place. It won't come out now unless you cut wires. So what we have is we have the top wires that are going to be used to make the bail. We have the bottom wires, and those will be used to make all the scrolls and decorative effect on this pendant from now on. So we'll start with these bottom wires. And I start by making one scroll down at the bottom, and the primary purpose of that is to cut or to cover this wire here. So again, I shape it with my fingers, and again I'm going in a counterclockwise direction. The direction is not terribly important as long as you use the same direction for the whole project. And I'm just roughly shaping these. I've made my bottom scroll. It covers most of where we wrap the wire in at the bottom. And now I'm going to bring these up on the outside. And I want to form this so that it looks nice. So I kind of look at it and I judge, whether I'm pleased with that at this point. And actually, I think I want it to come out a little bit further. So I just shape it, and 90% of this project is done with your fingers. So something like that. And I'm holding the wires very closely together. Come across the front, go around, and I'm going to crimp it. And I want a little more fullness up here and down here. Okay. No two of these projects turn out the same. Okay. Now then, I want to come this same direction, and so I form another scroll at the top, and the idea of this scroll is to cover this area where I've used where I've locked all the wires together. And in some cases, it'll take two scrolls to do that. This is, I think, one of those cases. So I make it just a little larger. And this is where you really need the extra wire. This is why you have to provide extra wire, because each of these little scrolls takes a lot of wire. And I'm going to form this. If you get your wire going the wrong direction up here, it looks very odd. It's not attractive at all. So you'll need to really think about what you're going to do at the top. And I'm just forming the bezel down here. Come down the other side. Okay. And I kind of like that. It's not too bad. So what we do at the bottom is I lift this first scroll, just move it out. And I'm going to bring these two primary wires right through that area, and I'm going to bring them down until I like them, until I like the shape. And I want it to be somewhat symmetrical, so something about like that looks pretty good. And I've brought it through that area where I lifted the stone and brought it back on itself to lock it in place. Now I can move this back down. Okay. Now then, I'm going to make this loop in a clockwise direction, and I'm going to scroll that and bring it around. Now I decide what I want to do with these wires. I could twist these wires now, and if I wanted to, either one or both, to give a little decorative effect. But again, I'm not real keen on twist. And we can do a lot of things with these wires and to add direction or design to the stone. We can bring them up here, and we're going to lock these wires around these two outside bezel wires. So you can separate them with your fingers, move it around to see what you like. Position it anywhere down there. I kind of like something maybe about like that, where I don't cover much of the underlying design. So I'll just cut them. Oh, roughly 1/4 of an inch. And then, as before, I'll just use my my chain nose pliers, and I'll just roll this around and back on the same wire. Actually, I'm going to bring it around it a little bit, kind of like that. And I'll cut this right here. I think I will. In situations like this where this where these very sharp little pliers come together, I'll squeeze that on itself to hold it in place. And I'll do the same with one right above it. And this is one place we definitely don't want to apply brute force. We just want to just snug everything up. Oh. Cooperate. Again, line it back up on itself and position it. Get that little. Okay, now with the bail, I almost always twist the bail. It makes it quite a bit stronger, work hardens it a lot. And again, since it's a soft wire, we can do the whole thing. I just Okay, I've twisted both of them. And again with my 1/4 inch shaft here, I position the bail about where I want it in front. Cut it down here. And I find some place to bring it around and lock it in. In this case, I'm going to come right through that little gap on right there. So, and with the chain nose pliers, kind of offset it, and I begin to roll it into place. And you may have to work with a little bit. Actually, maybe we'd be better off just to do one at a time. There it comes. Bring that around. Lock it's on itself. Bring the next one around. Lock it on itself. Line these up. Separate them. And here we have our completed pendant. May reshape some of this just slightly if it gets a little bend in it that I didn't want. I just manipulate a little bit with the pliers. But that's it. It's about a 15-minute project or less. Cut, deburr, and polish. Deburr and polish. Okay.